Good day, and I am of course your friendly neighborhood GeneralLotz, bringing you glad tidings of games long forgotten. The PlayStation 2, the PS2, or as it's never called, the 2, was a game console that single-handedly defeated the Sega Dreamcast and wounded both the GameCube and the Xbox Classic. It was a game system that lasted pretty much longer than any other game console known to man. It was a game system that I came to fairly late. I did not get a PlayStation 2 until 2006, and I only got it then because I wanted to play the then new Guitar Hero. But as time went on, I came to appreciate its robustness. Essentially, back in that particular era, the Xbox Classic was, shall we say, somewhat shoddily constructed and would break after only a couple of years, whereas my original PS2 Fat is still running strong. Now today, we're taking a look at one of the earliest games for the system, Extermination, a game that was used to show the PS2's graphical prowess and was shown at various trade shows early in the game console's life. So with that, let's take a close look at Extermination.
Extermination is just weird in some regards. At first glance, it's your standard survival horror video game with the cinematic camera angling system. You gotta find keys and solve puzzles and all that good stuff. But here is the interesting aspect of the game. It has platforming and acrobatics?
What is this bloody thing supposed to be? Resident Raider or Tomb Evil?
Yes, indeed. It does have platforming elements and acrobatics, and they play a big role in the game. This at first took me aback a bit, but once you get used to it, it's actually pretty bloody awesome, and like with the rest of the game, it controls quite intuitively. The game as a whole controls quite well indeed, and the controls feel more fluid than they ever did in any of the Resident Evils, even including Resident Evil Outbreak File 1 and 2. The platforming is done via one button, and you can jump about like bloody Ezio Auditore. And movement is streamlined a bit as well. You do not have a sprint control, rather Dennis here auto-runs. The inventory system is also well laid out and intuitive, with the various items each having their own easy to find and figure out categories. And you can always find out how much bloody health you have. The game also introduces a special and awesome weapon called the M4 Carbine.
Oh sure, they give it some sort of fancy survival horror name, but it's a bloody M4.
And like in real life, the weapon can be extensively customized with custom uppers, lowers, red dots, and ACOGs. Special weapons attachments such as shotguns and flamethrowers, and damn do I want that flamethrower, can also be attached to the M4 as well. Really, if you're into gun culture such as myself, this is both awesome and hilarious at the same time. Awesome because of all the customization options, and hilarious because these days people really do put way too much crap on their AR-15s.
Yet, the rifle is fine. SKS is superior to all.
The game also has Dennis carrying around a battery, which is a new concept to be certain, and it's used to charge certain plot items and to save the game. And yes, this game is that kind of survival horror game, a balls-to-the-wall hard one where you have limited saves, and when you do want to save, you have to spend something to save that game. This is not too bad, as some of the time you can find a charging station nearby, but not every save station has one nearby, so you do have to use that battery sparingly. Like any good survival horror game, most of the time you will be solving puzzles rather than fighting. Like with Dino Crisis, this game is panic horror. But unlike in Dino Crisis, that gun you got is 120% useless.
And I know what you're thinking. GeneralLotz must hate the fact that you can't shoot the griblets. Well, that's not entirely the case. In fact, I find the whole run the fuck away concept to be rather, shall we say, enjoyable.
In the game, you can fight the various enemies, but you should never bloody well do so. This is a game where you must run the fuck away from everything. Listen to me. You need to run the fuck away. And while I have been cutting down on my fucks as of late, this game is indeed fuck worthy because... Wait, that came out wrong. Anyway, this game is balls to the wall hard if you let it be. If you think this is like Resident Evil, where your weapons are actually useful, you will die, and die a lot. Your rifle in this game is pretty bloody good. It can dispatch these little griblets quite easily. Too bad there's a couple hundred of them at any one time. Also, humanoid enemies can suck up a couple mags, and you can only carry 2 mags at any one time. And there are no ammo pickups in the game. Rather, there are ammo stations scattered about that will refill your 2 mags. One funny thing is the fact that in the various notes you can find, you learn that the base commander has authorized these ammo stations to dispense unlimited ammo drops.
Now, if only I could get me one of those for my bloody home. 7.62 by 3.9 is going up all the time, and you don't even want to know how much 22s have gone up.
We then get into the fact that your enemies do two types of damage to you: health damage and infection damage. Health can easily be healed with standard health packs, but infection damage requires that you find a certain item and then find a certain location to use that item in, as it cannot be used on its own. Every attack that an enemy lands on you can increase your infection level until you at last die. So once again, run the fuck away! Numerous points in the game really drive home the concepts of panic horror. Essentially, all throughout the game, you are going to need to run the fuck away. And here's the funny thing, even the game tells you to do this.
Even a brave Marine needs to know when to run.
That's not, of course, running away. That is simply attacking in, shall we say, a rearward direction. Although, that's not really true. Well, the game doesn't expect you to attack anything. It does expect you to complete puzzles while being attacked.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The game still expects you to complete tasks, even in rooms filled to the brim with enemies. Just look at this room. There are dozens of these little crawly griblets, and these guys individually are no threat, but they shoot poison goop at you and can jump on you en masse and then infect you and kill you. That being said, the game still expects you to figure out what to do in here. Really, you must calm your mind and look around the room and figure out what to do, because if you're running around shouting, "Oh shit, oh shit, oh shit," you will die, and die a lot. I should know, because I died and died a lot. This game is oldest of the old school when it comes to gameplay. It never holds your hand and expects you to figure out things on your own. And it gets worse, ladies and gentlemen. There are dark areas in the game that you have to run through, filled with enemies that can infect you in an instant. And you, of course, have a flashlight, and it actually does work to a certain degree, but these dark areas filled with enemies that can actually do damage is really bloody scary, and really can cause a great deal of panic. Essentially, when it comes to panic horror, this game is utter perfection.
Now, while the game sounds like it might be hard for the sake of hard, it really isn't. The game expects you to run away and never really puts you in situations where you're going to be backed into a corner and expected to fight. In fact, where it might seem like there's going to be a boss fight, you can still, of course, just run the fuck away.
Case in point, here's a big snarly monster, and it looks like it's gonna be the coolest boss fight ever. And you can try and fight. That's a good idea. You can get your head fucking ripped off. Or you can literally just run past. When I actually did that, I was like, wait a minute. I don't have to fight the boss fight with my 2 mags and surrounded by little crawly griblets? I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Because, well, in that circumstance, that's really the only thing that would make any sense for anyone. Sure, if you're the bloody Master Chief, you could bludgeon that bloody bastard to death. But if you're just a regular Marine with little ammo, just running away is generally the smartest idea. The graphics for the game have held up tremendously well. If I had seen this game back in 2000, my mind would have been blown. Full blown. Everything looks amazingly well detailed, and the 3D models for the people still look good even to this day, and none look like bloody plastic action figures. Problems that some games even in the modern era have. I am really surprised that the game looks as good as it does, as this almost looks like a bloody PC game with how high quality the visuals are. The game's story is told in in-engine cutscenes that look good in and of themselves, and also in FMVs, and the FMVs look damn good as well, and of higher graphical fidelity as you would expect. One final cool thing to note is just how many little details can be found throughout the game. Like this character giving you a code by writing it on a door, and when you return to the room, it's still on there. Mind full blown. The sound design for the game is also pretty bloody good as well, with all the guns sounding realistic and the monsters sounding suitably scary. And the voice acting is just on the right side of cheesy. Music for the game is decent enough, but none of the tracks really stand out all that much.
And now, let's take a look at the surprisingly good story.
The game starts up with a US Marine Force recon team going to Antarctica the Thing style. This intro scene introduces our main character Dennis. He's feeling down because someone close to him died, and also his girlfriend is supposed to be at the base he and his team are being sent to check out. The dialogue here is actually surprisingly well written, and it's not let down all that much by the, shall we say, questionable level of voice acting.
We're more than just a unit. Never forget that. Your pain is my pain.
Thanks, Roger.
That scene, of course, is amazingly awesome. Military units are much more than just machismo and let's go kick their asses, and actually can function a lot like a family unit, where each member of a military unit actually cares about the other. And it is very rare to see that in video games.
Also, you gotta love them rocking some Counter-Strike knives. As you would expect, the plane is shot down and our hero must survive the base in all its dinsians. The story is pretty bloody engrossing, and the somewhat cheesy voice acting is just the candy flower on the cake. The story does have one minor problem though. This being a true survival horror game, there are numerous memos and text logs to be found throughout the game, and you can learn all you need to know about what is going on. But the character in-game always asks, what the hell is going on, even though you, the player, already know what's going on, and it really makes me want to shout,
You just read what's going on, you anime-haired dumbass!
But alas, just about every game has this issue, where the player knows more than the character they're playing as. There is an easy fix for this though, just don't put the bloody notes that explain everything until later in the game. Well, even the best of games cannot be 100% perfect, I suppose.
And that is, of course, Extermination, a game I highly recommend. It is a criminally underrated gem for the 2, and is a game that can definitely be had for very cheap these days. I found it on eBay for a grand total of $6, and you can actually find it disc only for $2. So thankfully, it will not break the bank. Now, I am, of course, your friendly neighborhood GeneralLotz, and I am going to wish you good Silent Hill, and good Silent Hill 2, or whatever makes you happy.
If you enjoyed my review of Extermination, please consider subscribing, and if you can, please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can continue to bring you these great reviews.